Hey guys, my name is Niclas Huschenbeth and today I will play another Blitz and Talk GM special. And my Grandmaster opponent today is my former UMBC teammate Giorgi Margvelashvili, strong Grandmaster with an elo of, I don't know exactly where he is right now, but at least 2570. I hope I'm not wrong at this point, but he's a pretty strong player and he's also, as I know, a very experienced Blitz player. So that's definitely going to be a challenge. And I'm going right ahead to Chess24 and I will challenge him. His name is Nazgul. You can see it right here. I don't actually know what that stands for, but he will maybe tell me later. And as in my game against Kore, in my first GM special, we will play 4+2 again. I think it worked out pretty fine. Seems to be the most exciting time control, because even when you're low on time you can still play on, you can still fight on, because you always get these 2 seconds increment. So now I challenge him and we'll see how this turns out. I'm excited for this match. Giorgi played on the UMBC chess team from, I believe, 2009 till 2013. So we played together for 1 year, but now unfortunately he is at one of the competing schools of UMBC. He's now in Texas, playing for UTD, University of Texas, Dallas. And actually we played against each other just last year when our two universities played against each other. And it seems he's not quite figuring out how to accept the challenge, because he's taking a long time, but now he figured it out. I think it's his first game on Chess24. So here we are, he has started the game and we are ready to go. I have not switched. Now it's switched. Okay, just making sure, because in the past sometimes that didn't quite work. And we can start the game. I play my Muenden. Actually, and I can do a little plug here, just a few days ago a series was released on Chess24 about the Muenden, but now unfortunately he's not going to Muenden with knight c3. He plays knight f3, which means I'm playing my Bogo Indian, and I can tell you a series about this opening is also going to be released pretty soon on Chess24. So I'm kind of covering the whole d4 c4 complex when white starts with the moves d4 and c4. And he plays quite fast. He plays queen d3. I don't honestly think this is the most critical move. I think g3 or e3. And the idea is obviously he wants to play e4 pretty soon. So now I will simply play d6. And it's pretty straightforward to play for black. You just put all your pieces on black squares, obviously, because you don't have the black squared bishop anymore. So it's very simple. But of course I sometimes have to watch out about moves like e5, but I think right now I'm not too worried. I could just take and play knight fd7, and my future moves will be a5, e5, and so on. And the question is always, in which order do I play them? But let's play e5. Doesn't look like anything's wrong with it. He will just keep the tension here. He doesn't want to take on e5, because then he would give me the square on c5. And I don't really want to take either on d4, because then I would be left with this weakness on d6. So this will probably stay like this for now. And I assume he will castle, and I will continue with a5, and we'll see. Maybe I can also play b6 to not allow him to play anything like c5 sometimes, so I should keep that in mind. It's also an idea to play the bishop to b7. It's actually a very common idea in this kind of position. He plays actually c5, and I was afraid he would go for that. This might be a problem, but we will see. So I could take on c5, then he takes on e5, and we have a very strange pawn structure. I think I should go for this. I could also take on d4. No, he takes on d6 and plays e5. That's no good. So I take on c5, and he takes on e5. Now I could play rook d8 first. Probably I should do this. Why not? Just attack the queen and play the rook to the open file. On the other hand, yeah, I think it's okay. I was worried about queen c4, but then again I can attack the queen with bishop e6, so I don't have to worry about queen c4 at this point. Maybe queen b3 is interesting. And then bishop e6, bishop c4. I could take, queen takes, knight g4. I'm just a little bit worried about moves like e6. That would have been the advantage of playing knight fd7 immediately, then he couldn't play moves like e6. He plays queen to e3. So now knight g4 seems to be obvious, but he plays queen f4, knight c6, knight c4. So this is very concrete right now. The question is, can I win this pawn? And I think I have some hopes to win this pawn. So let's see how that works out. So knight g4. Queen goes to g5. Okay, I don't think it makes a difference. I still play knight c6, attack this pawn on e5. And now my idea is after knight c4, I want to play bishop e6, now attack this knight on c4. And I think I'm gonna do this right now. Okay, so now I'm threatening to take on c4 and then take on e5, so he has to react in some way. He can play knight d6, I would still take on e5 and exchange this defender of the knight. So maybe he's gonna go for h3, and then if I take on c4, then he could take on g4, opening up the h file, but on the other hand I would take on e2 and his king would be wide open. So I think my position is decent here. He has to cope with this threat, and he plays h3. So probably we will see the variation I just said. I could also play h6 first. Does that help me in any way? The question is it, maybe it's a weakness, but after h6 he has to go back to f4 to keep the pawn protected. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I'm honestly not sure. No, I take on c4 immediately. I like this better. And take on e2. And I think I'll follow up with knight d4. This looks good. Yeah, knight d4 looks good. And then take with the rook and then immediately attack the pawn on e4. And in this way try to... Oh, he doesn't... Okay, he doesn't take. That's maybe smart. Because that would have really helped to get my pieces into play. So I don't really want to take on f3 now. So I could play knight e6. No, queen c6 looks like a decent move, attacking a pawn on e4, maybe bringing the queen over to a6 sometimes. Ideas like that. And he might just defend the pawn with rook e1, but maybe knight c2 is an option then. And I'm not sure if he is having anything on the h file really, because if he plays queen h5, I could play maybe h6. I have to watch out for moves like g5, and it can become very concrete, very complicated soon here. And you see we're both not having a lot of time left, so this will maybe become exciting pretty soon. So knight c2 seems to be the obvious move now. And I think I'll just go for that. I just try that and see how it works out. So if he plays queen h5, I could maybe even take on e1. I could think about it, or simply play h6. Maybe h6 is safer. But I certainly have some options here. And his problem is he can't really protect the pawn on e4 anymore, because he doesn't want to play rook e2 because of rook d1 check, so he plays rook c1. The question is, why can't I take on e4 now? And honestly, I don't really see a reason why not to. Maybe queen f5 is a problem. Maybe queen f5. Yeah, that might be his idea. Well, honestly, I don't see anything better right now. So I have to take on e4. He will play queen f5 and then exchange queens. Oh, I don't have to. Queen c4. I do have to. I mean, okay. Take. And now I have to move my knight. So I have to move it to d4. And he plays knight h4. Ah, because the pawn f5 was hanging. Okay, but this leaves me with a very good position. Now I just have to protect this pawn, and I'm a pawn up here, and he's certainly having problems here. He's gonna play his rook to h3, I assume. Yes, he does. But I have this pawn wall here. But still, it remains pretty unclear because obviously we're also running short on time now, and it just becomes more difficult here to play this position. But I'm confident that I have a good position at this point. Alright, but the question is how exactly to convert it. I bring my rook into play. I have to watch out about this pawn a little bit. I'm slightly worried, but I think I can stop it for now. And play my knight back. Gives a check. Rook e4. I have to stop this knight from coming to play. He wanted to play f6, so that was pretty dangerous, and I didn't want to allow that. And he's putting some pressure on my position now, but I still think I can keep everything together. He's playing his knight to... okay, I play knight c6. I really want to get this pawn now, and I think I will get it right now. Yep, there I got it. Okay. Okay. Wow, that's just so intense with so little time left. It's just too intense. I don't want to plunder anything, but... Wait, what? I lost some time? How's that possible? I thought I had like 3.5 seconds left. It says 3.5 seconds. Okay, I don't quite understand it. That's quite a pity. I'm sorry about that. I don't know exactly what happened here. But that's really unfortunate, because I think I'm not worse here at all. I think actually I might be clearly better. So let's see what actually happened in this game. I think the last moves were just crazy complicated, and probably here I'm simply better. Probably after this whole, I mean, it started early. When he played c5, all these complications more or less were forced. So in the end, we reached this endgame. He played knight d4. Maybe he should still play rook takes c5 here. I think might be a better try. I'm not sure. And then knight takes f5, king e2. Well, he's also pawn down. I mean, it will be difficult anyway, but I feel like that in this position, with my strong pawns here, I have a clear advantage. And how it turned out, I wasn't too unhappy about it. I liked f6. Maybe I could just go for something like c3 here. Maybe I shouldn't worry about this pawn too much. Just play c3. This looks pretty strong. And then can I play b2 even, or just take? But he's fast too. That's the problem. Okay, maybe it doesn't quite work. But rook c7, knight g2. Maybe again c3 is an option. But still, I liked that I got rid of this pawn. And then we reached this position, played rook d7, and somehow I lost here in time. I don't know why. And and I'm still up a pawn, and I'm ready to have some action here. And I think I have a very good chance here, and I'm pretty confident I could have won this position. Alright, but let's have a rematch. Let's see, how do I... Right. Okay, and this time I'm gonna play with the white pieces. So let's set this up, and here we go. Alright. It's really unfortunate I lost this first game on time somehow, but maybe I can have my revenge now. Alright, let's go. He plays d6. I really expected him to go for the Caro-Kann, what he usually does, but maybe he was afraid I would prepare something. I of course didn't. And he plays a very solid closed Philidor variation here, where black simply keeps the position closed here in the center, and obviously white is having a slight space advantage, but it's nothing too major. And he plays this interesting line with a6. Usually most players play with c6, and there's an interesting idea here, and I kind of remember how to play this with queen e2. And the point is now that rook e8 would run into something like knight g5, rook f8 and queen c4 suddenly, and that would be pretty unpleasant for black. So I think a usual move is c6 here. Black is slowly trying to gain space on the queen side with b5, but I'm also having my options here. For example, there's often an idea to take on e5, followed by knight h4, and the question is if I should do that right now. I know another common move is to play bishop d2 and rook a d1, but I feel like he's coming here with b5 pretty soon, and it is probably the right time to take on e5 and play knight h4. And I think this might actually involve a pawn sacrifice if he takes on e4 now, but I think it is pretty dangerous for black. He could take on e4 and take on h4, but I have ideas with knight d6. Yeah, I can't believe this works. Knight d6, queen c7, knight takes f7 would be already possible. So this doesn't work. So I play knight h4, obviously with the idea to place my knight on f5, and it's very unpleasant, this knight on f5. I wouldn't like to play these positions with black, honestly. It just seems to be hard to really come up with decent counterplay. I mean, there are ideas with b5, but I don't know, it doesn't seem to be that fast. I could simply play knight f5, b4, knight d1. Okay, now I just played it, so I guess I have to react in some way. And maybe I can even play better. Maybe I can play queen f3 to play the knight back to e2. Is that smart? I honestly don't know, but I guess I'll try it. It seems more natural to play the knight back to e2. I just hope that I didn't overlook any specific problem. I had to look at knight takes e4 ideas again, but it seems that it's fine. I was looking at b4, knight e2, knight takes e4, queen takes e4, bishop takes h4, but then the pawn on b4 would be hanging, and I think that's not the worst exchange of pawns, because then his pawn structure on the queen side is slightly damaged. He plays g6. He says, okay, I will not let your knight to f5, but this obviously opens this diagonal, so this was kind of an invitation. And there are also still ideas with knight f5 and in the future queen g3, so I will keep this in mind. Well, I'll play a rook to d1 now. I mean, it just seems to be natural to play the rook on the open file. But his position is not easy to crack. He plays bishop f8. He wants to exchange this bishop. And if I move my bishop away, he's going to play the bishop to g7. So I think I'm going to take this bishop off. And now his black squares are a little bit more weakened. So maybe I can make use of that somehow in the future. I hope I can. For now, it seems to be quite attractive to play this rook to d6. And this is what I meant. The black squares are weakened. So now suddenly it is possible for me to put a rook on this attractive square on d6, which wouldn't have been possible before, obviously, with the bishop still present. So this rook is really active now, and I expect him to play something like queen e7 and to hold against me on the d file, queen e7, rook a d8. But maybe I have some tactics already. So we'll see. He plays queen e7. I obviously double the rooks. And now he's probably going to play something like rook a d8. And now I have to see. Well, he cannot move the knight quite yet because this knight would be hanging. So I still have some time, but I would like to use that time wisely. And the question is, how can I increase the pressure? Is g4 a move here? It honestly looks crazy. But it might be a possible move. So I will take a look at this right now. g4 with the idea g5. I know it's a very radical move, but maybe it is possible. I feel like it might be too much. Might be too much. Huh. I'll play queen g3. Well, it's a very simple idea. Now I want to take on g6 maybe, have ideas like that. And knight f5 is a threat. He can simply play king h8. So maybe that wasn't too smart. But now I can maybe pin this knight. And this looks unpleasant. Okay, he plays b4. Wait a sec. Can he take on d6 and take on e4? I hope he can, but he might do this. I can take on d7. Or can I? Oh my goodness, this is too much. I just take. But maybe it's not smart. But I was running low on time, and I saw at least I have a perpetual. And maybe I have more, but I honestly don't think I might have more. So now he takes on, holy, I didn't see this move coming, honestly. And that's a huge problem. I have no time. That's bad. Whew. I don't want to lose on time again, honestly. But it might be happening on because I still only have 6 seconds left. Time. Okay, what's going on here? My goodness. So he could. What can he do? So now I'm threatening to take on e7. He could take on. He takes. I take. That should be a draw here. I can take on g6. I can play knight f5. I play knight f5. And that should be a draw. Yeah. Okay, so I saved myself to draw here. I think I had a very good position before. But just not enough time, and now it is a draw. He really shocked me with this move, b takes c3. So I just have to look at this position again. That was so complicated. So this is definitely the critical position. So what I was afraid of, if I play knight e2, I was afraid he could take on d6. No, he can't. I thought he could take on d6. Maybe he still can, maybe. Knight takes e4, and first I thought I could not protect the rook on d6 here, but I can with queen e7. I mean, this is still not clear. Knight takes d6, queen takes d6, and I still have these back rank issues. But he cannot exploit, because if he moves the knight, I can give a check and then obviously defend myself. So maybe I should simply play knight e2. But now, that's the problem. Now he can play knight c5, because now again my rook is undefended and I cannot take on f6. That's the problem. So that was his idea, I'm pretty sure. And here, yeah, it doesn't look like I have any advantage. He will just take everything off. He will just take, I have to trade rook nows, oh wow. I have to trade rook now, trade rooks now. This is what I want to say, okay. You see, this game shook me up a little bit. Still can't speak right. No, this doesn't look good. Queen d1 is threatening, knight, pawn is hanging on e4. So probably my choice, rook d7, was right. And now b takes c3. What a killer move. Just let me see here again if I had any other options. But I think h3 was a good choice. Because, well, I can take on e7 because rook takes d1. And do we have anything else? Let's just make a crazy move. Bishop takes f7. Just for fun, because we can do it. This might be a very strong move, honestly. Because now if he takes on, obviously now he can't take on d7 because it would be run into mate. He can take with the rook because the rook takes d8. He can take, well, he can take with the queen, but then again rook takes d8. So this might actually be a killer move here, right here. Because c takes b2, now this might be possible, or is it? Or is it? It looks so good, but how exactly is this winning? Maybe it's not winning at all. It's gotta be winning, but I don't see it. Queen h6, knight h7. And this pawn is kind of annoying down here. No, that's... Let me see this position again. I just want to see if there's a win or not. But now rook takes d7 is a threat again, because if I take, then b1 queen. So I have to do something right here. So can I start with queen h6? Now threatening knight takes g6. Mate, so he has to react. So queen takes f7. Rook takes d8. Rook takes d8. Rook takes d8. Knight g8. What the heck is going on here? Now b1 queen is coming again. And I can't even play rook d1 because my queen will be hanging then. That's ridiculous. I guess I could play knight takes g6 now. Queen takes, pawn takes, rook d1. But I don't think I'm better here. I'm not quite sure. c5, rook b1, bishop takes e4, rook takes b2. Pawns are equal, but all these pawns are pretty weak. So maybe I'm slightly better here. This is so complicated. Wow. Let me know your thoughts. Maybe you saw something in this position that I didn't. Yeah, and I think after h3 it should be a draw. I mean, if he takes on b2, I take the queen, and this knight is also hanging, so that would be too much. And so he takes, I take, queen takes f6, king g8. I could also take on g6, but wouldn't make a difference. It's just another draw here. Obviously I don't have any way to continue my attack with only queen and bishop left on the board. Yeah, 2 exciting games, definitely. Thank you very much, Giorgi. It was great fun. It was unfortunate that I lost the first one on time, but certainly 2 fun games, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too watching. And let me know your thoughts, let me know if you have any questions, and if you haven't yet, you can subscribe up there. Thank you guys, bye.